Okay, then welcome everyone to our 19th YPIC webinar. And today we have a very cool setup of a panel discussion with the topic of transition from academia to your own startup. But before we are actually starting with it, here are also some news about YPIC that if you want to follow us, you can, of course, always look at our website, but also very cool events are coming up. So we are starting again our student proteomics fund, and there our call opens in October. If someone doesn't know what it is about, just go on our website. But really quick, you can get a grant up to 5,000 euros. And we are also still searching sponsors for it. So just check it out. Then also in November, something from YPIC is coming up, also a career panel discussion with 3 really cool speakers. It will be on the 27th of November and will be also free. So also just scan the QR code and join this event. And also, if you don't know yet, the YPIC Winter School is coming up again, and the abstract submission will end in November, so you still have some time, but also check it out. Then for the event today, we have 4 really cool speakers, and it will be a little bit different than normal. So we have these 4 speakers. They will introduce them first. And then we have something that is called Slido, where you can just ask your questions. You can do it anonymous, but you can also, of course, speak up if you want to do it, and write your name into the chat if you want to do it. So otherwise, here is, you get also soon a questionnaire where you got to know about this webinar. So just click on one of these things, and then finally you can just ask your questions. And we are now very happy to hear the first introduction from Daniel Lopez Ferrer. I'm very happy to get to know about you and also the company from you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Or good evening. It depends where you are at. Let me start sharing the deck. Sure. Okay, I guess you guys can see now my screen.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, and it must be in presentation mode. So when Luisa contacted me and asked me about this topic, this is something that I've been trying to do some entrepreneurship since I was doing my PhD. So I thought it was right on one of the topics that has caught my interest from very early on, and what are all the challenges that I went through until I decided to start my own company. So one of the things that I would like to bring up is that typically there is a leap, and the leap is that transitioning. In my case, for example, I transitioned from academia to corporate, and then finally I started my startup. And during this timeline, one of the main things that I learned was that to be a successful entrepreneur, one of your biggest drivers is going to be experience. So, I still remember the first patent or the first license that I did was when I was a PhD student. And many of you may not remember, but there was no FASTA databases. So we were doing de novo sequencing at those days. So I developed with a crazy friend and my PhD advisor software that uses neural networks to interpret MSMS spectra. And we successfully licensed that to Thermo Fisher. So in those days, Matthias Mann was at EMBL in Heidelberg, and he was saying that QTOFs and high mass accuracy was the only way to sequence mass spectra. And we were able to do it with ion traps and intelligent software. So Thermo licensed from us, and then one of the learnings was that when they license software, for example, in big vendor companies, really what it matters is that how many instruments they are going to sell. So the software, as soon as the Orbitraps came, disappeared. And then later on, when I was at Thermo, I had the code, and it was very interesting seeing it. So it was an experience from 20 plus years ago that you can license technology. It's a lot of fun, but we were not ready for a startup. And what data shows is that basically the average age of founders for US companies is around 42 years old. The highest growth new ventures have founders that they are around 45, 46 years old. And typically, if you're a founder about 50 years old, you have 2x of having the highest growth in your company. So really experience matter. And it's not only experience, it's the network, the people that you know, how you're going to connect people one to each other and solve challenges that they're going to come up. I mean, in any venture that you do. And you have guys like Peter Thiel from Y Combinator, and they talk about those dropout students that they started startups. But if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, basically they are older, or at least they're older when they succeed or when their careers peak. So that is just, I not want to disappoint you, or I want to encourage you that experience matter and you should be careful before you start a new venture. In my case, I mean, I saw it like I was training for battle. So when I had Steve Blank at Stanford and UCSF being my professor, and he always was saying that there's no business plan that survives the first contact with customers. So we were doing the business model canvas and all that stuff, and actually he was right. I mean, but it's not only the customers; it's only the experiences that you are building on. So in my case, I mean, like I started in 2000 at University of Constance, and I was working with mass spec. Then I came back to Spain. I did bioinformatics. I did proteomics applications. Then is when I started doing tech transfer. So I did this de novo sequencing software, but also I discovered that you could accelerate enzymatic reactions with ultrasounds, like the Covadis method. So that's my patent. And I tried to start a business plan and start a company, and everything went to hell. So it didn't work out. But we licensed the company to a company in Boston called Genomic Solutions, that it doesn't exist anymore. But we built a robot, and we launched at ASMS, and it didn't sell. So then I went to PNNL, and I studied again. So we did a little bit of bioinformatics. And PNNL is managed by Battelle. Battelle, their business is the business of innovation. Basically, they create intellectual property and they sell it to people, to companies outside. So in mass spec, I was with Dick Smith, and mass spec, you see ion funnels, slim technologies, the emitters that you can see now in every Bruker system with the etching. So all those technologies came up from my time there. And I was able to experience how to do the licensing. So, and I also had a patent, which was the accelerated enzymatic reactions with pressure. And we licensed to a company called Pressure Biosciences. And then I passed all the protocols to the Rudy's team, and you have the PCT swath. But I mean, even though it was very cool, I mean, it didn't make money. So I didn't make money personally, and PNNL didn't make money. So, but it was another learning of when you do something needs to scale, and also the technology of the company needs to be sustainable in time. So again, another failure. Then I went to Celcata, and we were doing, it was a CRO. And then I learned how to deal with customers, projects, got into the biology. I was involved with a company called Stencentrics that was sold to AVI for, I think, over $2 billion. And it was just a marker that we found. We were doing almost single cell proteomics. And then it was funny because AVI bought those assets, and then the drug never worked. So it was interesting to see how all those things came up. And then I wrap up going to Thermo Fisher. And at Thermo Fisher, it gave me the structure of corporate, how corporate or corporations work, and also how to launch products, how to go from innovating into a product to finally launch into a product, and how long it takes. And that also allowed me to see what are the time frames and how are the major gaps that big corporations have. So in very big companies, there is no innovation, or the innovation is very, very low, or very, very slow. And as soon as they get bigger, the slower they are going to be, because they are more meetings, there are more gates reviews, there are more bureaucracy. So that to me is one of the important things that you can think about when starting a company. Is like you are going to be much more agile. So it's about execution. It's about the team that you are funding. So then I came to a company, a startup here in Spain, and didn't work out. So for several reasons, but it was another failure. And now I'm at Montara. And I think here is where I believe we are in the right path. But very briefly, I mean, to me, everything starts with a why. So, and for us, when we started Montara, we were looking at, okay, so why are we doing this? And basically, I've been in proteomics since 2000. And in my brain, it was all solved in 2000. 2005, everything was solved. So, but somehow the industry didn't want to move along. Customers didn't see the potential. Biology needs numbers, and I think mass spec is the tool to do that. So to me, I want to accelerate discovery. We want to democratize proteomics to allow everyone to do proteomics, and we want to give science the tools that it deserves. It's our why. And how are we going to do it? So we want to build by scientists for scientists. We want to do fast and smart designs with the tools that we create. We want to be sustainable and inclusive. I mean, in this world these days, we can do very little. I mean, personally, I can do very little, but I'm going to do as much as I can, just because it feels good. So because I was in Spain, I want to use local supply chains. I want to have a very light footprint in the environment, and I wanted fair pricing. So I've been selling stuff that I think it's overpriced for years. So now is, okay, we are going to go cheap, and we are going to disrupt. And I think it's fun. So just going and said, whatever we sell is going to be 30% cheaper than the most expensive, the thing that you see there. Whether it's an ion source, it's an emitter, it's a column, we will be able to do it. And that is one of our designs practice. So that is why we are at Montara. So we want to be those underdog challengers that we are going to provide fast, smart, sustainable, and price for access innovation that can disrupt proteomics. So for us, the problem that we want to solve is the cost of reproducibility. So for us in biology or in proteomics, basically it's like people are constantly losing money, time, and trust. Again and again, you see these things popping up. But I mean, like, how many times you see that you cannot reproduce experiments, whether it's your own experiment or it's someone else's experiments. And then coming from the mass spec side, I mean, I can tell you like over 30% of the mass specs are not working, at least 30% of the time. And that is barely around 200,000 euros. Just go up and down a few $1,000s, but that's it. That is what it's dependent. Every one of us has been going through at some point. And major vendors are not going to solve this because their focus is selling instrument. As long as the labs keep buying, reproducibility stays an afterthought. So for us, it was like, well, we need to build that. And that is how we started doing this thing. So now maybe I come a little bit more into the, let's see, something pop up here. Our kind of like assay here. So this is basically the ecosystem that we are trying to do. So basically we are building emitters, quick fit columns, heaters that are cheap, ion sources, and also software to do QC analysis of all our runs. Because we think that that is basically the minimum that we can do at this point. So we have developed ion sources. They are plug and play. You can see that it's pretty much the Easy Spray concept, but Easy Spray hasn't been updated in almost 16 years, 15 years. And basically it costs around $20,000 to $50,000. Okay, so we can do it 30% cheaper. It's lighter, and we also put sensors. So we have the electronics inside that we measure room temperature, we measure humidity, we measure noise. So that allows us to do a lot of QC in the instrument and environment. So kind of to be able to see when the instrument is going to fail. And on top of that, I mean, it offers higher performance, around 20% improve in ionization efficiency, which one of the things, I don't think that we do anything extraordinary, but I think that positioning the meter in front of the inlet, that is the only thing that really matters the most. But that is kind of like what we see with most customers. The other thing is that we have developed a software called Quick Fit Inside that what we are doing is just basically taking all the telemetry data, doing a database search on the fly, and then we provide insights about your runs, your instrument, your laboratory, so you have everything in control. So now you have the tool to do it. And that's kind of like, for us, it's key so you can be proactive, monitoring your lab, and then reactive when you need to troubleshoot. I mean, in the products that we have developed, we have done a little bit of emitters. Basically, we just short them as much as we can. I mean, scientifically, we know that that gives you better ionization efficiency. And what we have developed is nothing new, but basically is the production methods that we are using are a little bit more sophisticated, but not as much as sophisticated, because one of the key things that we wanted to do when I was telling you that we want to source locally, we are hiring people that they are not educated. So they don't know what they're doing, and basically come from backgrounds that they are not very privileged. So for us, it's an option to give them a job when we do columns, when we do emitters, and that's what the innovation here was more about the manufacturing. And just to finish, basically what this is our quick fit columns. Basically, we have developed the columns, and it's an integrated emitter, resemblance like the Easy Spray source, sorry, the Easy Spray columns, but it has an integrated emitter. And what we see is that right now we get pretty competitive results, and we hope that this is mostly our products. And this could not be happening with all the people that I have around in Madrid. I mean, I think it's extremely important to have the experience and the network for people that support you. And they are going to be your first customers. They're going to allow to go to your labs. And I have to thank all those people. And with that, I just thank you all. And I will let the next speaker talk. Thank you.
Yes, before Lindsay's turn it is, please go all to poll to our Slido to our poll, and also don't forget to ask your questions in the Q&A session there. They will be asked at the end, just for the people that are a little bit late. And then please, Lindsay, you can continue.
Of course. First, thanks so much for having me. I'm going to maybe take a little bit of a historical journey through how I got to entrepreneurship. And I want to echo what previous presenter was saying too. And I did definitely take some time figuring out that I even wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't actually set out thinking, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. This is a journey I'm going to take and training I'm going to need. I just kind of was doing proteomics. And as I was doing proteomics, I fell into entrepreneurship. So I had done my undergrad. I didn't go straight to graduate school. I worked for a little bit teaching TOEFL in South Korea. And then I went to the Broad Institute and got a job. I just needed a job. It wasn't like a training trajectory. I needed a job. I worked in the proteomics platform there and just like really made a lot of stupid mistakes. If any of you have been working in automation, you might notice that the robot error that I have there was probably about a $10,000 mistake that I had made because I just had the rack of tips was just slightly offset and I crashed the entire head into it. So, you know, nothing at this time is really telling me I should be an entrepreneur. I have valuable things to teach the world. I ended up going to graduate school after this. I decided I did want to like learn more, and I started getting more involved in like the really awesome proteomics community that we have. So not only in my lab, but traveling and teaching people. It was really a teaching journey. I was really enjoying teaching people how to do proteomics, teaching people how to do mass spectrometry. And as I was going out doing all of these things, I was just doing my regular, you know, meeting people. And I did want to plug, like, the more you network. So this is a picture of my company. It's a little outdated, but I wanted to point out, like, in my journeys, in my career, I've met a lot of people, and those are the people that I ended up drawing in to work at my company. So as you're going around networking, you never know who could be your next boss. So the more kind of, you know, seminars like this that you do, the more professional organizations like YPIC you join, you never know when that's going to become a job referral in the future, either someone who's hiring you or someone who's like, oh, wait, I know someone who's hiring for a position and I know the perfect fit for that. Let me introduce you to my friend. So the stuff that you're doing, participants in organizations like this, in going to webinars like this is fantastic for your career. Even if you yourself do not want to become the entrepreneur, you can work at a startup and help the entrepreneurs building their products and building their services out. But coming into my team, grad school is when I met my co-founder. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the company in a bit, but I wanted to like give you a little bit more of a glimpse into the human side of it. I met my co-founder in grad school, and some of the projects that we had worked on is what ended up becoming the company. So we had just worked on this academic project. It was like a protocol. It was a technique to use that got proteins off of DNA, got proteins off of chromatin. And we wrote the paper, and that's cool. The institute where he was working at filed the patent for that technology, and a pharma company, GSK, had the first right of refusal on the patent for that. So I definitely think that's, you know, patents and intellectual property are maybe something that, at least in my department in grad school, we didn't talk a lot about, but is really like, you have to have the intellectual property and own the rights to that intellectual property to be able to spin out a business. So if you're kind of thinking about it, if it's in the back of your mind, definitely talk. I think every university and like every country in the world has some sort of technology transfer office or intellectual property office. So make sure you're keeping them in the loop as you're working on your thesis, on your postdoc projects, on your software, your side projects, keeping them in the loop so that they can help you get this IP squared away, because that'll be kind of like a foundation for your company. So my now co-founder and I, he was the first author on this paper, Alex, and we were just working together. And it was just really fun to work with him. He was a great person to work with. So when he had contacted me and said, hey, I think we're going to like spin out this company. Are you in? I was like overjoyed just to be able to work with him again. So we founded the company in 2020, spun out, and had to raise a small amount. So part of what I'm going to talk about is the idea of venture capital, because I think this is something that is very, it's great to avoid it if you can. Don't take venture capital if you don't have to, but based on your business model, you may be forced to take some venture capital and some dilution. So last presenter already kind of brought up the idea of Y Combinator. I wanted to point out that you don't have to do it alone. If entrepreneurship feels very daunting, there are a lot of accelerators and incubator programs. And I pointed out a couple like US centric things like NSF, National Science Foundation, but most countries have some equivalent of this that will let you just kind of bounce ideas off of some professionals before you kind of like fully commit. And if you've got questions, you can join some of these foundations, some of these accelerator programs, and they'll help you kick around your idea, refine it, make up the business model, put together your first pitch deck, and even introduce you to some investors. So that kind of brought us up to where Talus is today. We're still fairly small, but we're growing. And kind of our idea is much bigger than where we're at. And our idea, our vision is definitely going to be like a 25 to 50 year project, more of a generational thing than something we can just knock out right away. Because kind of what we want to do is come up with ways to manipulate any gene. So we could come up with a switch, an on-off switch for any gene, so that we can cure, we can reverse aging, you can rejuvenate a cell if you put in the right proteins. If you activate the right proteins, the Yamanaka factors, you can rejuvenate a cell. Got to figure out how to do it safely. A lot of cancers are caused by genes just getting turned on and turned off when they're not supposed to be. There's a ton of other rare diseases that we could do. You can even just imagine if you could fine tune certain cells in your body, could you just promote human health and performance? So first you need to figure out what those switches are, and you need to figure out how to switch them. So that's kind of the idea of Talus. We're working in this space, the regulome, so all the proteins that are in the nucleus, the proteins that are interacting with DNA and turning genes on and off. That's like the fundamental technology that we have is a mass spectrometry based readout for an automated process that washes proteins off of DNA. There's a lot of different proteins that we can be looking at, right? Like you guys are all proteomicists, so you appreciate this a lot more than like the genomicists that I talk to who are like transcription factors, right? And it's like, there's actually a lot more than just transcription factors, but yes, and. So we're working on kind of this whole collection of proteins. So you can kind of start to see this idea of all of these are switches, and in the right combination, if we knew what the right combination was, if we knew how to modulate them, we can turn them off and on. So we use this mass spectrometry-based technique. It's not dissimilar to a lot of techniques that other proteomicists use, where we isolate a nucleus, and then we use a series of salt washes to wash off the different proteins. And what we end up getting is, just like proteomicists, like you're not going to be doing mass spec proteomics without a giant heat map, right? So we turned our heat map into a circle, and each fraction that you get is just a different set of proteins going from the cytoplasm to the nucleoplasm. So the things that are proteins that are in the nucleus, but not binding to anything. Chromatin, the stuff that's bound to the DNA. And then this insoluble chromatin fraction tends to be a lot of like membrane proteins and stuff like that. So we do this every single sample we measure on our mass spectrometer. We get this kind of profile of what proteins are on DNA, what proteins are off of DNA. And we're just going to keep building this up. So building up enough, we can change who a cell is. So take a cancer cell and kill it. Turn on apoptosis genes or turn off the cancer, reprogramming, turning skin cells into heart cells. We can tune up or down different functions, metabolic functions within a cell. So you can imagine reversing DNA damage or turning on proteins to improve DNA damage to improve the cellular response to those pathways. We want to be able to automate all of this. Something really big these days in omics technologies is lights out. So doing factories. So could you essentially, as the scientist, be thinking about the experiment without having to hold the pipette. So could you just tell a robot, I want to test these samples, go run it for me and tell me the data when you're done. And then you're thinking about the data rather than, did I calculate 500 millimolar NaCl correctly? Like, I gotta do some dilution math. Instead of thinking about that, you're thinking about the biology. And really, in the end, we just kind of want to make this virtual nucleus. We want to be able to, in silico, determine what compounds, what small molecules will modulate, what different types of transcription factors, what other types of proteins. So this is like going to be a very long journey, and this is not something I can spin out by myself. So we take in a lot of scientists on our team, and these are just kind of the in-house scientists. We also have like fractional scientists, so you can hire people for like 10% of their time, 25% of their time to help you where you need some assistance, you need some expertise, but you're not ready to hire someone full-time. And then we take all this idea of like venture capital, dilutive funding. So we can talk more about that if people have questions. But I'm excited for the conversation today and ready to hear more from the other panelists.
Yes, the next person is Akhmedov.
Perfect. Can you see my screen? Hi, everyone. I'm Murad, co-founder and CEO of BigOmics. It's a pleasure to be here and share our journey, how we switched from academia to build a startup. Perfect. So a brief background information. I am from originally Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. Then I moved to Turkey, Istanbul, for my master's and bachelor, then to Switzerland for my PhD. And my PhD was a joint project between IPSIA, Swiss AI Lab, and IOR, Oncology Research in Switzerland. I also had a chance to visit MIT during my last year as a visiting PhD student. And Boston was a particular place actually to boost my desire to build a startup. I've seen a lot of researchers combining or wrapping up their scientific problem as a business opportunity. This really excited me, and I also wanted to try. When I came back to Switzerland to finish my PhD, my co-supervisor at that time, who is now my co-founder, also wanted to switch or transition from academia to startup. And one main reason was the final result of your academic research is mainly publication, right? Paper, and we wanted more than that. We wanted to build a solution for the problem that we at first hand encounter in our lab, which is a data analysis bottleneck, which I'll be talking next in next slides. So we wanted to solve this problem, and in our case, it's a platform, but it could also be a service and solve the real problem. So for us, the trend was really clear. Data in digital health is exponentially growing. Main driver for that is obviously the cost of sequencing is drastically reducing, being in early times over $1 million, now a few hundred US dollars per sample. That resulted in exponential growth in omics data and shifted the focus from data availability to how we can efficiently analyze these data to better understand diseases, develop treatments, and eventually unlock precision medicine. And of course, data analysis is a complex thing that therefore it is about, but more than that, also the way how we collaborate makes this bottleneck even worse. For instance, biologists generate this data, send it to bioinformaticians. Traditionally, bioinformaticians analyze data, generate static reports, bunch of Excel sheets, and send them back. Biologists review them. And oftentimes what happens? Of course, they can get back to bioinformaticians with repetitive questions. There is a back and forth loop between biologists and bioinformatician, which makes both sides frustrated. And inefficient R&D process, delayed insights. We experienced this problem at first hand being 2 bioinformaticians supporting over 50 biologists in 10 different groups. We wanted a solution for ourselves to make our life easier, but also biologists' life easier. So we end up building a solution that's Omics Playground. It's a collaborative environment that provides efficient data analysis, including transcriptomics, proteomics, metabolomics, and lipidomics. We also focus on multi-omics data integration. It's a SaaS platform, also available free for students to test it out. It's not only efficient solution, but also it brings standardized and reproducible analysis. So every user in the lab will exactly be using the same pipelines to pre-process and compute results. And all of the data in one place. So end user biologists or computational biologists can easily compare their new experiments with their previous experiments. We tested it for ourselves, more than 50 different projects. It really worked well for us. Then we realized that the problem of data analysis is not, we were not the only 2, but other R&D labs, biotech, and eventually pharma as well. So currently we have more than 60 paying clients. We also have more than 6,000 free users testing the platform. We're really happy. We at the beginning, of course, trying to push it further. Now, this is my last slide. Just I wanted to share with other people who would like to also build a startup. So in early days, what kind of supports we got? We got a basic and core coaching from InnoSwiss. We based in Switzerland, but obviously other countries, they have also their governmental support entities. In parallel, also Lindsay mentioned incubators and accelerators, but a little bit more information about these incubators. Their time period is basically 1 to 2 years. And this information is mainly valid for now SaaS companies, maybe a little bit less relevant to biotech per se, but all advice what I'm giving here is for SaaS in digital health. So 1 to 2 years, they do not require, incubators do not require usually equity. And we got incubated by Uzi Startup Center. And during that time, we also had a chance to participate at a local startup challenge. We got a third prize, 20,000. We used that money to register our company startup. It served for its purpose. After that, you can also apply to accelerators, and their period is usually 3 to 6 months. They come with initial investment ranging from 50 to 150. They require, therefore, 4 to 10% of equity. In our case, we applied and got accepted to Alchemist Accelerator based in California. It was a turning point for us. And accelerators, at the end of their program, they do organize demo days. And for Alchemist, 400 to 800 investors watched our pitch at demo day, which was a good push for the fundraising process. I would highly suggest to apply any kind of accelerator. Lindsay also mentioned some others. Y Combinator is the top, TechStarts, 500 Global, Plug and Play, many others also in Europe. Even though they get equity, it really helped us. And I would suggest also applying for that. And then I think we also need to mention some of our challenges. But challenges usually depend on the stage of the company. At early stages, of course, getting funded is a challenge. And there are a few points, maybe we can discuss it later on in a Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then before we have the last speaker, Philipp Geyer, please go also to our questions, vote them up that you'll find the most interesting, and also add new questions. And then we are happy about Philipp. Short introduction.
Yeah, sure. Thanks again for inviting me. So this is really super nice and highly appreciated. And also for everyone in the audience, you can always reach me over LinkedIn. So if you have any questions afterwards, just let me know. I thought this start as a short introduction about myself. similar to the others. So for me, actually, everything is about science, mountains, and fishing. So I love fishing. I love mountain biking and hiking. And the cool thing is you can do everything here in Bavaria. And even science is fantastic in Bavaria. We have these fantastic large universities here. We have very nice institutions like the Helmholtz Center or the Max Planck Institute, where I have done my PhD. And I also give you a bit of a perspective where I'm coming from. So, of course, from Bavaria. But then I also went here to university. I never left, actually. I never went to another country apart for holidays or conferences. This is because I think it's so fantastic here. You see, I'm very much liking my area. And as I said, science is also great here. I had this fantastic opportunity to do my PhD with Matthias Mann, and I benefit until today a lot from his lab, and especially from him. So he's really a fantastic guy, and it gives you a lot of input. So I was always very lucky. I was also very lucky for my PhD topic. This was on plasma proteomics, and I'm still active as a researcher in plasma proteomics. I was actually coming to this topic also at the exact right time, where it was not really possible to do a lot of analysis, a lot of samples with mass spectrometry on plasma. And then, of course, back then, this is 11 years ago, it was also not possible to cover a lot of proteins. So we're getting around 100 proteins in plasma. And maybe we did studies with 10 or 20 samples. And at the time when I started my PhD, this changed to a lot of technology progresses, and suddenly you were able to find several hundred proteins. You can do hundreds and then even thousands of samples, and this allowed me actually to do a lot of publications. And what also allowed me to do a lot of publications was Matthias and his team. So there were these fantastic guys in his laboratory, and I had a lot of fun with them. So I also stayed for a postdoc. And after the postdoc, actually, where I met my co-founders of my first company, I started this first company. This was Omega Diagnostics. This was a technology platform where we did especially plasma proteomics. So we measured thousands of samples in high throughput, automated sample processing, and we developed a lot of technology. This was lab technology, but then even things like scan modi or things like on software. And it was really a fantastic time. And after time, we got acquired by a large American company. So it is a cancer diagnostic company. And I stayed in this company for several years as a research director. And then I thought, okay, now it's time also to move on again. And I really thought, what did I like in my life a lot, or in my career so far? And these were two things. I loved the time as a founder of Omega Diagnostics, but what I also liked a lot was actually the time as a postdoc. I would even say the time as a postdoc was the best time in my life. And so I asked Matthias out for dinner, had a bottle of wine with him, and asked him if he would take me in again for a sabbatical. So I stayed with him a whole year again, did something like another postdoc for a year. And this was a lot of fun again. There were super nice people again in his group. I could work on my own research ideas together with others like Johannes Müller-Reif or Katrin Korf from Matthias Mann's group, with Matthias, of course. And this environment is just very productive. And at this time, I also thought, okay, maybe I also found my second company, and this is Ions.Bio. And actually, I found this second company with the exact same people I founded my first company. This was very nice time, as I said, and this is also why I asked them again out for a second date, so to say, for Ions.Bio. And what is Ions.Bio doing? We provide actually an end-to-end solution for biomarker, but also drug target discovery. So we can provide to pharma and biotech companies clinical samples like tissue samples or biofluids. We apply then proteomics, so we produce our own data. We have a wet lab, we have mass spectrometers, and then we also have our own data analysis platform. So we have this all in one solution, and the entire biomarker value chain, so to say, is here in one company. And also, if you want to learn more about Ions.Bio, please feel free to go to our homepage or just reach out to me. Apart from this, I also have some advices for you. So whenever you think about founding your own companies, these are some of the recommendations I have. So I would always recommend you to found a company with friends and always found with like-minded spirits. I think this just makes everything much more easy. If you found with friends, then that's of course fantastic because you spend so much time at work, right? By not spending it with friends, that's always better. And they have to be good, of course, good in the things that they're doing, because only then you can be very productive. So also look not only for your friends, but also for very productive friends. So this is, I think, quite helpful. Also consider this: if you found a company, you're typically responsible for everything, especially in the beginning. So also consider this. This is a lot of work. Still, I think it's very rewarding. And also agree instantly in the beginning, in the founding process, what you want to do with the company, right? Like about the mission of the company. What's the aim? Do you want to do research, or do you just want to try to earn money, right? So we want to do a lot of research. It's one of the aims of the company. And then, of course, talk about also how do you want to lead the team, and also instantly talk about exit strategy. So you should be aware, and also the team should be aware what the exit strategy is. You don't have to tell this everyone in the world, but at least the team should have the same idea about where the company should go in the future. And what's very important, I think, and I didn't do this with my first company, but with my second one, don't make a secret out of it. So definitely, first thing is get your wife involved, tell her about you want to found a company, tell your potential co-founders, of course, do you want to found a company with me? And then tell everyone, right? Tell all your friends, because only if your friends and everyone else knows that you're founding a company, they can also help you. So really networking and let your whole network know that you want to do such a thing. And quite often people are afraid if they tell an idea to others, someone is stealing the idea. But actually, I'm quite convinced that ideas are always cheap. It's never about the idea. It's always about the execution. So even someone has the brilliant idea, this doesn't matter at all if this person is not executing on the idea. So execution is everything, and this is also the hard part. And then I also can give you the advice, always take soft skills very serious. In the past, I thought this is super boring, but over time you learn they're super important. And this goes in every direction. And the cool thing about soft skill is, and soft skill courses, you get them for free. You have LinkedIn, you have YouTube. There are a lot of courses, and of course there are books. So just go on LinkedIn. There are fantastic courses you get for free. And also, if you have an idea and you want to execute, never underestimate timeframes. So in Germany, it takes like 6 months to just set up a company. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved. There are tax implications. You need lawyers. And always take this also into account. There are mistakes can happen really everywhere. And you as a founder, especially as a managing director, you're responsible. So you really have to think about mistakes and also take care of them when they're happening. And then I also have one of these soft skill course with me for you. This is this one. That's a classic, I would say. So it's already quite old. It's from Brian Tracy. It's called Eat That Frog. And in principle, it would also help you in your PhD or in your postdocs to get your projects done. It's a very easy system. So every task that comes on the day in your mind, it should come actually down with pen and paper on the paper. So you write down all your tasks that you have on a paper, and then you sit down and say now, for example, in the evening, okay, what is my most important 3 tasks? And behind the 3 tasks, you write an A. And these 3 tasks you have to do the next day, definitely. You would also assign other letters to the task, like a B. These are important tasks, but they are not as important as B's. There are C tasks. These are typically the tasks that you don't really have to do. They just cost you time. Then there are D tasks. These are work that you can delegate. And there are E tasks. They're so unimportant that you just can eliminate them instantly. And the idea is that you always do your A tasks, because these are the tasks that really brings your ideas or your paper or whatever you have, it brings it forward. So it can really make a big difference in your life. And if you do this every day, this can really change your life. And it's doing this for me. So I do this now for 5 years. It's fantastic. I think I get more things done than in this last 5 years than in the 20 years before. So it's really nice. And that's thanks to this book. That's actually about it already. As I said in the beginning, please feel free just to reach out to me if you have any questions. And of course, you can also ask them now. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Philipp. I am already seeing some clapping hands going around here on Zoom. Of course, not only to you, Philipp, but to all the other great speakers that were here presenting their little journey and also giving really great tips where you as a PhD student or as a postdoc student could take care of or think about if you even want to go this direction. Like many terms that came across today where I was like, ah, yeah, that's very good to know. So yeah, as we are a little bit in time limitation for some of the speakers that might leave, I will immediately start with Murad and ask him a question. So just a heads up for all the other people, there's a QA in Slido, and if there's a question that you really, really like, you can even give it a heads up and it pops up all the way till the top. And that brings us immediately to the question, what was the most important piece of guidance you received or learned during your journey to create your startup? So Murad, would you have any one point, or was it multiple things that made you think this is the direction I want to go?
And if I can summarize in 1 or 2 points, one of the most important advice that I got, again, for SaaS solutions, do not wait too long to sell your product. Do not try to over-optimize. Just go and really iterate fast, check the market, is there a market, and iterate together with the market. And the next important would be never fall in love with your product, but fall in love with the problem that you're solving. I'm not sure if I am doing that correct, but at least those are the advices I'm trying to stick with.
Ah, nice. Thank you for the answer. It's also very nice to hear this, that Daniel had the same thing, right? We want to answer this question to why rather than having the product. So that's really great to hear. So one more last question that I think would fit you also very well, Murad, and then you can, we will ask the other speakers, of course, as well. As you mentioned that you have a co-founder as well. There was a really interesting question that was asked if there's anything, a time where maybe you had a different direction than your co-founder. How did you handle this?
Oh, this is a very tricky question. Actually, the co-founder split is also one of the main reasons that startups fail. Right? Therefore it's very important to select, cautiously select your co-founder. I mean, I was really lucky because we have been together with my co-founder during my PhD, so we knew each other's characteristics, complementary aspects, which is also very important because in startup you have multiple fronts that you need to cover, and then also the respect should always be there. Any kind of argument, I mean, it's impossible not to have argument, but just the mind that we need to continue this together, it should always be there. And any argument should be more not to win, but really to take the team from A to B.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Murad. If you need to go, thanks a lot again for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and I think, you gave us lots of nice advice for everyone here. So thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks also, panelists. It was a pleasure to talk.
And maybe now our other panelists can answer this question for the most important piece of guidance you received, because sometimes it can be different and you can receive it from sometimes different people also. So if one of you wants to share, what was this piece of advice?
I actually think I said it already during my presentation, for me at least. And this is really share your ideas with others and also invite them to join you. So, for example, if you start a startup, tell your friends, and then you also see what's the response. And maybe there are people that want to join or people that want to help you. So never make a secret out of such things like founding a company.
Yeah.
So I may add to Philip. I mean, I think it's important to ask. So rather than hide, you need to ask. I mean, there is many things that you don't know. Like in our case, for example, we sell products around the world. So I don't know anything about shipping, customs. When I was at Thermo, I had a full department of people doing that. And I never deal with bureaucracy or, for example, going towards a public tender. So to me is that just don't be afraid of ask. You don't need to know everything. And to me also you have the reward that as far as you are advancing in your journey, you are learning way many more skills and a lot of things. So right now, for example, I see myself that I can do many other jobs that I didn't do before, just because what it has been the journey in the last 2 years. And I'm not afraid of failing, it's like, okay, you're going to mess up to submit a bill in the French system, because if a French public institution buys you a column, it needs to go through a special thing. So, it gets interesting, but then you also have the Eisenhower matrix, which is what Philipp showed. You have to eat the frog. There are going to be many things that you don't want to do, and either you can ask or you can tell. One of the things I do, I tell my team. So I have to do it because I told them I have to do it. So those are the things that I can say, like ask, don't be afraid of ask. The other thing, you eat the frog, prioritize, and that's it is, and you will learn.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to not know everything and to just try and maybe fail and then try again. And I think it applies in lots of scientific fields also.
Yeah, I guess I'll answer it going in a slightly different direction because all of those answers are great. So you kind of took a lot of the the good ones. I'll maybe go specifically for platform and biotech kind of plays. You're not a platform until you have a product. So if you're coming up with some technique or technology and you want to disseminate that, there has to be some sort of product, and that can look a lot of different ways. Your product could be you're selling some sort of kit, you can be selling some sort of service like a CRO style service, or your product could be you're making a small molecule drug, you're making a drug, you're making some sort of thing. So you can have a really cool idea, and your really cool idea can be super exciting, but until you have a product from that idea, you don't really actually have anything to work with. So, and after you've got that product, all of the things that everybody's saying, right? Like get it in front of as many people as possible and get all of their feedback, good and bad, figure out what their actual pain point is. If you're solving a problem that nobody has that problem, nobody's going to really care.
And to that, for example, one of the major discoveries for us when we were doing the ion source, it was just having windows in the ion source so you can align the freaking needle. So the most stupid thing. And every customer was like, yeah, but this is like the easiest spray source. We cannot see it.
Yeah.
You just draw the hole and you saw it. And it's like, and they love it. So you need to test, don't be afraid. And at the end, it's about execution. So ideas worth nothing until they become something.
Great. Yeah, thank you for those insights. So we have the next question that was upgraded 3 times already. So it's since we're all from proteomics and the companies focused here are also proteomics focused, that's why we selected you guys. Could this, however, limit your ideas? Could this be like, how do you become innovative if you only focus yourself on proteomics? I think this is a very, very interesting question. And then a follow-up question would be, do you also hire people outside of proteomics? So maybe Philipp, you could have a go at this one, and then we go further in the panel.
Sure. I mean, you can have, I think, a lot of ideas where you found a company. So also if you're a scientist, right, a proteomics scientist, you don't have to found in proteomics. Actually, as a matter of fact, my second idea, apart from Ions.Bio, was to become a beekeeper. That's not even a joke. So I like nature a lot. I like bees a lot. So I was thinking even about doing this professionally. But then I like still science a bit more, I have to say. And I also like the developments of the technology going forward. I think it's more about what you want to do, right? It's not that you should limit you in any ways, but do the things you want to do. And maybe about the hiring, this was your other question, right? If you could hire people just from your surrounding, I don't think so. Typically, who you should hire is people that are like solid in the things that they can do, right? So they should be quite good from a technological perspective or good for the job. But then especially they should be nice people. So only work with nice people if you can. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
I mean, I could add to Philipp. I mean, I'm the only one in the team that knows about proteomics. So no one knows anything about proteomics in my team. Like, for example, Ali, that does most of the manufacturing, she comes from restoration. She used to work for museums restoring pieces of art. And she just came out of maternity leave. She was a little bit old, didn't find a job, those type of jobs. I mean, there is a lot of art in Spain, but they don't pay much. So it was kind of like, well, you have hands, you have a brain, and you have good eyes that I don't have anymore. Why don't you see what we are doing? And she came up with a machine to do emitters and columns. So to me, that's we do everything with 3D printing. So there is a lot of technology on that. I mean, we do our QC software. We do now everything with, I have here like mini PCs. Like one of the things we discovered is that pharma companies have hard time sharing data. So we are doing federated machine learning. I mean, I don't have that knowledge anymore. I mean, I don't know about computing in the edge, but I can tell them what the customers need. That's what I'm good at, and then selling the product. But all the technology, it comes from the team, and they do other things.
Yeah, for us, we obviously have a portion of the team that's not science at all. You need to have that to be a business. Like someone needs to pay my taxes and keep my books, and it's not going to be me. And then on the science side, we have medicinal chemists who obviously know what proteomics are, but like they don't do proteomics. Medicinal chemists, biologists, cancer biologists, molecular biologists that are not doing anything with proteins. They're doing, qPCR and plate reader assays, luciferase assays, viability assays. So I do think, we started as a core of people who kind of knew proteomics. And as the company grew and as we reached different stages in the company with different needs, you start hiring in people who have complementary expertise to you.
Thanks a lot for that. We have another question that came up as all of you have kind of different backgrounds. Do you think it is easier to start a startup if you have already been in industry or in a company, rather than compared if you have like more on a path in academia before? So, yeah.
I mean, my take is that working for corporations, you are not going to build wealth. I mean, so you would rather be working on your own. Working for academia, I think it's fun, but there's no many positions for that. And to me, at some point, I had already enough papers and I didn't want to get grants. So it was like, I need to move to the industry. And I think the industry for me has been much more fun. But working for someone else, I mean, I was like, at some point, I'm not going to build wealth, particularly in the Bay Area. And then what you see is that you can work for very profitable companies and everything goes to the stakeholders. So it was kind of like, for doing that, I can do it on my own. And the other thing is that when you are going into a venture, you kind of like put a lot of the risk. And, like people are, oh, it's very risky. Well, I rode my motorbike in the 101 every day for 90 kilometers between cars. I kite surf everywhere and jump 20 meters high, and I climb. And next week, I'm going to do an apnea class with firefighters to manage my stress. So it's like any of those activities are way more risky for my life than going into bankruptcy. So yeah, I mean, depends how you do it. That's my take.
I think for for me, I kind of bounced around in careers for a while, but I had never founded a company before, and I had done academia, but I think for me, it actually was beneficial that I hadn't worked at a big company before, and that I hadn't gone too deep in academia. If I knew what the field standard was, I might have been too scared to do this because I would have had all these preconceived notions of like, but people don't do this. This is not how you do drug discovery. You can't start a company doing, I think if I had spent maybe too long, I might have gotten too convinced that what I was doing was so weird and so non-conventional that nobody should ever do it. So the fact that I didn't do that, I think helped me a little. Kind of gave me a little bit of a like blissful ignorance that what I was doing was kind of crazy and that it would be a very divisive thesis for a company, versus if I had gone to work for like Pfizer or J&J or a big pharma company, I might have come back and said like, ooh, nobody does that, so it can't be done. I didn't know any better. So it made it easier.
Yeah, I don't really
Great
have
way
a,
of yeah,
yeah,
go
so
ahead.
sorry. I don't think I have a good opinion on this. So I think the background is of course important, but it's more what you want to do in the future.
I didn't want to interrupt you, Philipp, if you still
Oh,
have something. I just found it very cool how Lindsay said that maybe it's indeed sometimes better to just jump into it without the background, right? And why not? It might get scary eventually, because that's also what we have seen. Like, were there maybe parts that were scary when you made that leap, right? Was it then at some point that you were like, am I doing the right thing? Am I just not crazy for doing this? Like Lindsay already mentioned. And what are people thinking of me? So what was the scary part for you guys? So we talked about all these positive things, of course, but we can also imagine there are some downer parts of making this startup. So what are the scary parts for you guys? And I see Lindsay nodding a lot, so I guess she has a lot of scary parts that can enter this baby. So yeah, help us in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, and again, blissful ignorance. It wasn't until I like had spent a couple years doing kind of like our market research, our customer profiles, that I really started to figure, wow, what we're doing is really like out there for some people. Like it's just really hard for people to like grok what it is we're building and how we're doing it. And they might understand mass spectrometry, they might understand proteomics, but getting kind of into the weeds, they don't. So that's kind of been the scary part for me, is realizing the more I've done this, the longer I've been with the company and talking to big pharma, the more kind of unique what we're doing is, the more kind of the good word to use is differentiated. The scary word is different. So yeah, we're definitely very differentiated, which is good, but maybe too differentiated is scary. So that's definitely one of the scary parts for me, is just realizing the more we've gone in, how like truly our own category we have become in a lot of different ways. That's been a scary part.
sure, you can go next. think the scary part of it for me is always, it's not responsibility, it's maybe more liability, right? So of course you are responsible for everything, but then if you are, at least in Germany, if you're managing director, you're also legally liable for a lot of things. So you shouldn't do the wrong moves. You should do always everything in the right way, and also talk always with your stakeholders, right? They're always in the loop. So this is super important, and always have the right consultant that can really help you, because of course, I didn't study law. And in Germany, you definitely should do this if you found a company. So you need the right people, and also there get the right people on board that can help you with this. Yeah, maybe Daniel, you go next.
Yeah, I mean, like, so to me, it's, I think I've been, so for a while, I mean, particularly during COVID, I was very tired or burnt out with my corporate job. So, and I was thinking about what to do next. And then at that point, I had one of my very good friends that I met from Pino, was one of the bioinformaticians at Pino, but then he ended up doing his PhD in deep learning. So it is one of those guys that come from Toronto. So he went to Google, was a superstar, and he was also tired and burnout. And we were thinking about starting a company. And so we thought about a pharma company because we have a lot of VCs throwing money at us. So, and throwing, when I say throwing, is like dozens of millions of dollars. And I was like, and I was scared because it's like I was telling my friend, dude, if they throw 20 million just because of you and I mean, these guys want at least to get back 100. I mean, how are we going to do it? Then also I look at, like, for example, a CRO type of job, but then the money was not there. And so those are the things that to me was like, I want to do something that is not out there of my comfort zone. So you need to manage your comfort zone to accept how far you can go. And for me, like doing what I'm doing, it's kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable. Of course, as Philipp said, liability. Well, I mean, I try not to screw much, try to be as informed as possible, take as much as educated decisions as I can. And I mean, overall, it's not going to happen anything in the sense, I mean, I get the certifications or whatever needs to be done. I think that we have now an advantage, which is Gemini and ChatGPT. So that it works very well. And if not, I mean, like, or at least they work better than my lawyers. So I see that you can use them. I mean, you have a lot of resources, and then you ask people. I mean, the other thing, I mean, money-wise, I think that's financing. That is something that also is in the back of your brain here. Because at the end, I have to make sure that everyone gets paid. You want to hire people. We have interns. So at some point, you want to give them the chance. So those are the things that kind of like worry a little bit more. But then, as I said, I mean, like, you can put it in a balance. And I mean, it's not, I mean, people have been building businesses for a long time. To me, is that how I'm going to be able to make something that scales and is sustainable rather than kind of like go after the next milestone. I mean, like, that's to me is kind of like worries me. Like, for example, if I have to deal with a 40 or 50 people company, that scares me because that puts me in a position that I feel uncomfortable. But right now that we are small and we outsource most of it, I mean, I think I'm in a place where I'm outside of my comfort zone, but not too far. So I'm still having fun. I'm being innovative. We do things, and everything is kind of under control.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, one of the most important thing that most of us can like rely to is like step out of your comfort zone, but also don't be afraid to like go out there and like, yeah, step it up and and yeah, go do it. So one of the questions that goes also in this direction about like for people that might want to start their own startup is like, what is one misconception that people here might have about like building your startup that you would like to challenge or debunk?
And misconception is that almost 80% of the startups fail. So, well, that's a fact. So be ready for failing. I mean, and most of you have a PhD. You guys are all super smart. Typically, you get the first answer to any problem is right, but most of you are going to fail, and you have to accept that. And that acceptance, it's hard. And but you will grow, and nothing is going to happen. I mean, like losing a job looks like horrible, but I mean, if you are smart and you can use your brain and you have talent and you push, I mean, something is going to pop up. So, I mean, if you guys want to go to entrepreneurship, understand your customers, validate your business model, do the homework, and I mean, try to manage risk as much as you can, but at some point you have to pull the trigger and do it.
I think the misconception I would like to challenge is that industry or startups is selling out. I would definitely say I have had to be just as creative and just as scientifically challenged in my startup as my friends who have gone to academia to be professors, or my friends who have gone into industry to be research scientists. Every kind of like facet of my day echoes almost entirely parallel to my friends who have either stayed in academia to become professors. I write grants. I spend a lot of time writing grants. I write papers. We put together conference presentations and posters. We're designing experiments. We're debugging experiments. We're troubleshooting mass specs. Like my day actually looks quite similar with, you know, some of these like the parts of my day that are specific to startup life and working at a startup are some of these things that we've talked about, but they don't consume the entirety of my life. It's a lot of planning out a large project, breaking it down into smaller experiments, tracking that progress over time. It's not as selling out as I think a lot of people kind of feel it is. It's day to day. It looks very similar to any other scientific job. So that's the misconception I would challenge.
Yeah, I would say the biggest misconception, which is out there, I think for me, it's this one about the ideas I mentioned before. As I said, I always think ideas are cheap and execution is the most important. So it's not the idea that someone will steal from you. Maybe someone takes an idea, right, is developing it further, but then this person would have also to execute on it. And execution is always the hard part. It's not having the idea. Everyone can have ideas, and it's always very hard to bring these ideas into something that's real and has a value in the end.
Yeah, thank you guys. So just having a look at the time, I guess we will only have one more question left to ask. And if I'm correctly, the last question is rather about like the time frames that we would talk about. So how long did it take between the moment you committed to founding the startup and the moment you secured founding and could start actually paying your own salary? So can you give us a little, I guess also it's country dependent. So if you could give us a little idea of how long would this approximately take or how long it took for you?
In Germany,
And
it would
maybe
be
Philipp,
around,
yeah, you can.
Yeah. Sure. In Germany, it would be around a half year, I would say, typically.
I haven't gotten any salary for the last year and a half, so I guess I'm literally poor. So, I mean, I have my house is paid. You know, I go from time. My parents live close by, so I go and steal food. They love that. I mean, I still have money, but it's like as a salary, I pay the salaries of the people. And I would say that depends on how is your time frame. We are not using venture capital. I didn't want, my ex-wife was a venture capitalist, and I didn't want to deal with those guys. I want to be a venture capitalist at some point, not anymore. But I didn't want to fund my company with that. So I'm funding it through different ways. And I don't have a salary. And I live cheap. So
Yeah, for us, we incorporated the company in July 2020, and we had funding by the fall. So we started paying ourselves in the fall and hired a couple of research associates at the same time and a computer scientist for cloud infrastructure. 2020 was a very different time. I would say we are venture capital backed. So we went out and raised about $1 million to start up a lab, very similar to like an academic startup package, right? Like you get some money so that you can like buy pipettes and stuff like that. And so we did that, and took us about the 3 months, and then just kind of kept chugging since then. We did not pay ourselves a lot. We paid ourselves as postdocs. So there was no getting rich off of starting a company for sure.
Okay, great. So unfortunately, we didn't manage to answer all the questions. I'm very sorry for that. I must say this was a great first trial for us to do a panel discussion, and we didn't expect so many great questions. So for the audience, thank you so much for this interaction that you did. And also for the speakers, thank you so much for your openness, sharing your scary parts of this journey that you did, but also the great parts of it. And I have a lot of respect for all of you guys for doing and taking this leap, and also for sharing that with us. So we would like to thank you so much for taking your time and share this with us, young scientists. And we hope to see you, of course, around with YPIC. And if there's any other questions from the people, I'm sure that, as Philipp also said, feel free to contact the speakers or contact us, and we can give the questions further. So yeah, thank you so much. And then I wish you all a lovely day or evening, depending from where you are. And yeah, see you all around.